looking back on this great career, the new music, looking forward to the next album, you talked about how the industry has changed.
Vodka, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, it's early enough.
Drunk or sober, drunk or sober.
James Kevin Rankin.
Hey,
Good to see you.
you too.
How have you been?
I've been pretty good.
You got through the pandemic all right?
Did you have to bring that up?
I had to. I saw you in a series of interviews interviewing other artists from around the world.
Oh, that was something to do with, was it Folk Alliance?
Global Music Match.
Yeah, they paired us up with all of, like I was with artists from Spain, England.
A harpist from the US.
from Kansas.
Yep.
And was that it? And there was a guy from somewhere in Asia. Was it Thailand? No. It was anyway.
You're a great interviewer, by the way.
Really?
Well, you certainly have been on the other side of these so many times over the years.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a weird. The COVID, like the pandemic, was a weird time for anybody in the entertainment industry. Mm-hmm. For most people, some people could do it by at home, but they didn't stop working for film and things like that. But artists, we couldn't tour, and I didn't really feel inspired to make records and do anything. But you know what I did do was when I could get out of the house, I was posting songs every Friday. Then I was just doing them at a little that iPhone. Mm-hmm. And then when I could get out, I went over to Dartmouth to Joel Plaskett's studio, and I recorded a whack of songs with video and good audio. Mm-hmm. And I posted them every Friday night for months. And people tuned in religiously, and now I'm back out on the road, and I'm out west. I did some shows out there, and the East Coast. I'm doing some shows here, and people are coming up to me thanking me for that, which is nice because at the time I think people were really starved for communication with people and music. So.
But that was a different experience. And I've talked to other artists about it's one way. It's you and a screen, or you and a lens. It's not you and an audience. There's no feedback. It's not a loop.
No, it's a whole different thing. There's nothing like, and I'm not even thinking about AI now, but there's nothing like performing for an audience, that energy you get from people and the feedback. You can't replicate that as far as I'm concerned. That's something that they can't do ever, but they probably will. They're probably doing it now. Yeah, they are doing it now. But no, getting out the screen thing, it was good, to connect with people, and the feedback you would get, emails and texts and Instagram and all that. But playing live for people, that's my school.
The Savoy on the 2nd. How much of that is going to be like a homecoming?
I always loved playing the Savoy. I had Cape Breton's home, and I have such loyal fans. And I'm from the west side of the island. That's the rural side. Industrial Cape Breton is over Sydney area, so I always loved playing there. They're just incredible fans. And the Savoy, I played there with the Rankins back in the day, and then I have really, really fond memories of playing my solo shows there. And I've played there many times. The last time I played there was after Hurricane Fiona. I did I was part of a fundraiser with a bunch of Cape Breton artists, and that was jam-packed, and that was a great night. So I always love playing there. It's like going home, and people are just incredible. So.
Talk about playing with the Rankins. It's hard to believe Song Dog is 22 years old?
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
The band, it's been an entire generation since the Rankins were an entity. And number 8, your 8th solo album?
Yeah, well, the Rankins played and made records for 10 years. 1989, 1999 is when we called it a day.
Right.
And then a year later, I made a record called Song Dog and released it. And man, there's a lot of water under the bridge since then. I made this record, and I'd played shows before, but I was used to playing with my siblings. So there were 4 vocalists. Then there were Howie and John Morris doing instrumentals and all of that, and then girls step dancing. But the idea of going out and doing like a 90-minute set and have enough songs, can I carry that show? And so it was a little bit daunting initially. And so I made that record in Toronto with Tim Thorney, God rest his soul. He passed away a few years ago. And Tim worked a lot with Alanis back in the early day, Alanis Morissette, but he was a great friend originally from Winnipeg. But released the record, put all his money and effort into it, and 9/11 hit.
Right.
So then here I was out on the road touring right after that, and people were terrified. And they were coming out to the shows. They really wanted to hear music, but I put all this money into radio ads and everything, to advertise the record, because I'm an independent. And the news was just all about 9/11. So I went out at a weird time, and it was kind of surreal playing. I remember playing in this place in Toronto, right downtown Toronto. It's like a business, I forget what it's called, but it's like they have afternoon shows for the business people in their offices, and there were balconies all the way up. Mm-hmm. And we were playing, and can you imagine, people were really afraid to be in office buildings at that time, It really affected people. But we were playing down right in the center of the square. And I'll never forget, it was an afternoon lunch set we did as part of a promotional thing. And we started playing, and everybody came out to the balconies. Everybody was leaning over the balconies listening to music. It was awesome. Great time. It's a great memory.
Follow her around.
Yeah. So, Song Dog, 22 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
But you've been married, you and I both got married the same year, not to each other. So
I don't recall.
31st anniversary coming up.
That's right.
Just passed.
I have 2 anniversaries.
Okay.
We got married in Halifax by a judge on Halloween.
Okay.
Halloween evening
Okay.
in 1991, and then the following summer we had a huge wedding in Cape Bretoner at the Normal Way Inn. You know the Normal Way?
Okay. Yep.
And we, my God, the people, all of Mia's friends came from all over the planet. She's from New York,
right.
and her family spread out, and friends, and then my family, I have a huge family, they came from all over the place. Yeah. So there were hundreds and hundreds of people there. And it was the first dance that Dave McDonald at the Normal Way had. We had a tent, mm-hmm. and we had his barn. So we had the dance in the barn, we had a band, and outside we had a tent. And had all of, the CBC was following us around then too.
Okay.
Speaking of following around, they did. The Fifth Estate, Linda McIntyre was doing an expose on the Rankins.
Cape Bretoner.
And they wanted to film everything at the wedding. Yeah. And my family's very private. It's like personal life is personal life. And my sisters were like, please, So I said, okay, you can just film. What did they film? I forget what they just filmed parts of like the first part of the wedding.
Right.
And I wish they had filmed the whole thing, because a lot of those people are gone now,
Right.
But anyway, that was 1992, right?
Yep, 92. Yeah. Yep. And I could not find anywhere where you two met. I found that you were 8 years old drumming because your brother said, we need a drummer, come drum for us. But how you met your wife is...
I was a little more than 8 years old. I was about 11 or 12.
Okay, all right. Well, you can't believe everything on Wikipedia, obviously.
Well, it sounds good, though. A prodigy. Actually, Mia's folks originally from California, first-generation Japanese Americans on both sides, so they kind of migrated slowly across the country, first Chicago, then ended up in Nyack outside Manhattan. Mm-hmm. And they came up to Cape Breton in 1949, but they're both passed now. And they fell in love with the place, because they used to camp, and they were up there with some like Putney School or something like that, where they stayed up in Sight Point, and all these, we were watching like wealthy people's children, who's another story. But anyway, Ken and Suki fell in love with the place, and they bought a piece of property in Mabou mines that before they left, and that's when people were getting out of those areas. Now there's people are going to those places because they're beautiful, and the communication's easier and everything. But so Mia spent all of her summers in Cape Breton, so I got to know her when I was a kid. And yeah, so we drifted apart for a while during college, and then my last year of college, we reconnected. And the rest is history. Here we are.
31 years plus of marriage, 2 children who are close to being out of school. I mean, getting there.
James is going to graduate this year, and Chloe will graduate next year. Yeah.
How's that feel for you, being almost 60 years old?
Jesus. Well, I started late, and because I was on the road when I was, with my family, and we were touring all the time, and the ones who had children, they missed a lot of birthdays and things like that. Having back in the day when you could be away and your wife could be home having a child, you can't do that now. So we were touring a lot. It was busy, and I didn't want to do that. Like, I wanted to be around my kids, and so we waited. We just got in under the wire. But we had fortunately, two beautiful, healthy kids, and I'm still on the road, so it didn't really work.
You mentioned college, NASCAD. You graduated from NASCAD.
That's right.
And I'm looking at this artwork. I know you were talking a little bit about where this came from. What a beautiful image. And so, first question, what did going to art school do for Jimmy Rankin, who became a part of a musical dynasty, and then having a career as a solo artist afterwards? What did that bring to your
art college?
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. When I was a kid, the music was just part of the thing, and then I decided I didn't want to play in front of people, and then I started playing drums. That was fun because I was just back there. I loved that, but I always sketched and made art, and there were some very influential people at home who encouraged me and a handful of other kids to make art, and we were very fortunate because in that community we didn't have, they dropped art and music from the school when I was very young, so there was none of that. But we were very fortunate because we had a lot of artists in that community, like resident artists, local artists, craftspeople and artists, filmmakers, painters, etc. But we also had some very acclaimed, influential artists living in that community. Like Philip Glass is up there. Richard Serros, a world-famous sculptor up on Site Point. These people are, you look in the history books, they're there. Robert Frank and June Leaf from New York came up to Cape Breton in 1969 or 1970. And if, for those of you who don't know, Robert Frank was a very famous photographer. Did a book in the early 50s called The Americans, which just revolutionized photography altogether. And June, his wife, is an amazing painter. And so they stayed up there. And so we would go and visit these artists when we were kids, and you talk about art and stuff. So it was like really it was like an incredible education to, because they were right at the cutting edge, the epicenter of the art world. And they were very open and generous and giving and sympathetic. And so in 1983, I took a couple of years off school. I went to art college, 1984, and got a degree there. But the art college was pretty amazing then. What it did for me was I just taught me how to use my mind, and I apply that to my songwriting and the way I approach music.
You've had so many awards for so many great songs. You've got such an incredible catalog. How do you decide? How will you pick your set list for the Savoy Show?
Well, I have this new record, which generally when you play a new record, well, first of all, I have all of these songs from the Rankin days, and I have fans that come out and they love to hear that stuff. But I also have this 7 or 8 records of solo music, and fortunately, going back to the early days when I had a lot of radio success with the Rankins and with my solo career, and on singles, singles and videos, so people were exposed to this music. It's much different now. You really have to find your niche audience, but that's another story. But how do I pick my set list? I usually have a sort of a beginning song and an end song. And I include Rankin songs that the people are very familiar with. And then I sort of arrange the set for songs that will work with that set. And I really learned how to make a set list just by being in the Rankins, you know. And my sister Raylene was a master in making up a set list and entertaining people. So this record, I'll include some stuff from my solo and Rankin stuff. And this record, generally when you release a new record, you don't want to play too much unfamiliar stuff for people. But I think this record, I'm playing 6 songs, and I'm doing a lot of speaking.
Right.
A lot of stories about the songs, and people are really responding to that. So I'm just educating people about where these songs are coming. And this last record is the second record I've done, full-length record in Nova Scotia, and I recorded both of them in Dartmouth with Joel Plaskett over there, and it's been a lot of fun. And it's all East Coast musicians and just sort of material that's based out of this area. You know, it's folk, East Coast folk rock, they've been calling it.
Folk rock, but as you say, you introduce something like Lap Steel, Dale Murray, playing on the album.
Yeah.
So that's more of a country. You've sort of straddled these worlds between adult contemporary. I remember when Rita McNeil came out. Was she a country artist? Was she a folk artist in some ways? And you've navigated that, and we've come to this time where I'm sure you grew up like I did, where it didn't matter what the music was.
No, but it did. You know where it mattered? It mattered with the industry, with record companies, and. You know, they called East Coast artists schizophrenic because our musical interests, because they always want to categorize stuff, and you know, for a reason, for selling it. So, our records, the way we grew up, probably similar to you. You know, we grew up playing in dance halls. That's live music where you had to entertain people, and you weren't allowed to be introspective. You had to
keep it driving, keep it moving,
and so. We were pretty amazing at that. That's where I used to watch Raylene. You know, she would organize a set. So, you know, you'd do so many slow dancing songs and then some up-tempo stuff. And then a fiddle set, you know. Yeah. And then same thing all through the night. And at the end of the night, you'd be playing old-time rock and roll, you know. Yeah. And whether it was Beatles or Chuck Berry, that kind of, people were drunk and they wanted to really dance.
From ABBA to AC/DC and maybe some Willie Nelson in the
as
middle.
a result, growing up, my record collection was extremely collection. I had like 12 kids in my family, older. They'd come back from college. They had like all the contemporary records at the time. Grew up with AM radio. There were people that would come through Mabou, like seasonal people. They always would drop records and 8-tracks off at the house, you know, and like you'd hear stuff from New York and things like that. And so I just am a fan of music, and for me, I listen to music that's either I want to get into a mood or I'm in a mood, and whether it's classical or jazz or rock or folk. So my records are very reflective of that. And throughout my solo career in particular, you know, I made a country pop record, kind of an American, like I guess you would say Song Dog would be like an Americana record, right?
Right.
But if you could hear all the different influences on that, like the different styles, but it's melded together well. So these last 2 records, there's a lot of live off the floor, like vocal and playing on this record, and it just turned out that way, that the takes were just good, and for the most part, it's all live vocal with very few fixes, you know, and live, you know, I have like J.P. Cormier plays on this record, and he's like having 5 or 6 guys in the band because he can play all these different stringed acoustic instruments, anything like extremely proficiently, you know, and it's like 1 or 2 takes and so much experience. So it was a real fun experience. So I'd like to continue doing that, but I'm now thinking about another record and a different style.
Okay, all right. It won't be rap.
Actually, there was back in the day when rap was, you know, I could never do rap, but rap, you know, there was always mouth music. It's similar, you know, and they called them milling songs or Portaville, which is Gaelic for mouth music.
Okay.
And if you remember a Rankin record called North Country, there's a song on there called Johnny Tulloch. And that comes from that, it's Gaelic and listening to rap guys on the radio and just turning it into something Celtic.
You still having fun?
I love playing live music. I don't care for the business so much. In fact, I don't care for it at all. But I love music, and I love the playing live is the bonus. That's the icing on the cake. And the great thing now is that I have such an incredible, like a deep back catalog of music, and people like shout out requests, and they know the lyrics to songs. For instance, at the Savoy, I'll go to the Savoy and I'll just play a few notes that followed her around, and then they'll just sing the chorus for me. So it's awesome. I love that.
Looking back on this great career, the new music, looking forward to the next album, you talked about how the industry has changed.
Vodka, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, it's early enough.
The industry has changed. Oh yeah, incredibly. It's when
Not for the better, though.
In some ways, it's there are positives in that. But when I started out with the Rankins making records in the late 80s and 90s, music, you had to buy it, or you could copy it.
Tape it off the radio? Or,
yeah, you could do that, but now we're making, CDs are obsolete for one thing, and then listening to music on streaming sounds like shit, excuse my language, so far. But God, we sold a couple of million records in Canada, like hard copy.
Yeah.
And you could make money that way. Now it's, I'm still selling CDs because certain people still love to listen to CDs, and some people still have them in their cars and stuff, but you don't sell the volume that you did. That's gone. And then on the internet, basically, our music is free, so you still have to make records, and that costs money if you want to make a quality record. For instance, this record I made because I love making records. It's recorded onto analog tape, and you have to pay musicians, and so you're making kind of a, Anyway, that's changed. There's so much music out there too that you have to really hone in on who your audience is, There is still commercial radio where you listen to the radio and you can hear. I think that's still the most effective way because they talk about people getting all these streams and stuff, but a lot of streams are just in the background at Walmart and stuff, and people aren't really listening.
Right.
When you're in your car and you're listening to the radio, you're focusing on something. But that's all changed. What else is good? What are the positives? Well, the internet, it's a double-edged sword. You can get things out there. It's a way that you can really reach your audience that way. And social media, you have to really focus on that now. It's just part of the thing. The generation coming up now, the last couple of generations, they're so accustomed to that, of being on the internet and talking to a camera and stuff. And it's like, all the interviews I've done and stuff, I'm okay, I'm good at it, but they get up in the morning, it's like I'm wearing, everything's out there. There's no privacy, so everything's out there. So, and they have, it's a science, the algorithms and all of that. And personally, I would just like to focus on making music and doing concerts, but you have to be a social media nut, thanks to Taylor Swift.
I wish you nothing but success in your career. Obviously,
did I just sound negative and cynical? No, I'm just being realistic.
Well, it's the vodka talking.
Oh, Jesus, have another shot.
Is that on vinyl? Can you get this one on vinyl?
Actually, my other record I was talking about, I made over in Dartmouth, that's called Moving East. That's out on vinyl. I've never made a vinyl record before. This one I was slow on the uptake. It's going to be out in December on vinyl.
Fantastic.
And they look beautiful too. There's nothing. Remember those days?
Oh yeah.
Laying on the couch, listening to a record, and you'd have to get up and flip it over, and then reading and looking at the graphics and reading the liner notes.
Do you ever try to read lyrics on a cassette? No, it's not easy. Jimmy Rankin, all the best to you and continued success, and here's to many more albums and many more shows, sir.
Thank you very much. Nice talking to you.
All the best.